Good morning. Chairman Blumenauer and Ranking Member Buchanan, thank you for the opportunity to submit these comments for the record. Testimony from July and March of this year and September of last year can be found in an appendix as part regarding equity as part of the supply chain issues and the plight of the Uyghurs. Our main concern remains the unbalanced nature of trade with third world nations. Our food aid has a history of showing up when people are hungry, just before the harvest. Instead of sending food, we should send infrastructure expertise. American road building is second to none because we learned how to do it from Germany. It is better for us to transfer knowledge and some equipment. The goal should be building factories, possibly as a subsidiary to American firms. We are the experts in storing grain. Passing this knowledge and the facilities to build grain bins in more tropical climates is better than sending food. There are plenty of hungry people, so a better diet will not hurt our own agriculture. More importantly, the system of land registration we inherited from England would be useful in Africa, where individual landholding is not practiced in many places. Registering land with set-asides for public schools and land-grant university is the best technology transfer we have. Instead of attracting students, we should export professors to train local academics rather than draining African talent and providing a path to citizenship for people we poach from, which is an ironic word, from Africa. Another issue is dumping used American clothing on African countries. This damages the emergence of the textile industry in such countries, a system that ships African cotton to China, where it is processed into garments. What we cannot sell is then packaged and sent overseas back to Africa. What we do as charity turns into asymmetrical trade. Rwanda refuses such aid, and they are better for it. These approaches can be applied to other industries as well. Bilateral and multilateral trade should advantage both parties rather than providing yet another avenue to placate American consumers at the cost of American jobs. Consumerism has been used to break unions and to radicalize workers. No modern political system will ever let workers impose socialism. Social democracy is too useful, as are the employment of wedge issues. Any workers' revolution will be accomplished by simply beating capital at their own game, which is outside the scope of this comment, but I will be posting quite a bit on that in the near future. On the other side of the ledger, our oil supply includes crude being pumped from African soil. While this revenue is technically provided to the people of these nations, its elites are adept at diverting such proceeds toward overseas bank accounts for themselves. Corruption is always a feature of colonialism, even if the colonialism is economic rather than political and military. Aside from Alaska, our system is not immune to the abusive economic systems and corruption through campaign donation, and even then, but at least they get a dividend. The oil industry is masterful at breaking up its operation into smaller units. I have a book about that, while aggregating profit in the company with its brand. I'll also do a link to that book in Amazon. Extraction costs are lower than they could be, as royalties to tribal governments, which are often passed through the Department of Interior, tribes could make extraction costs are lower than they could be to tribal governments. Yes, tribes could make better deals. Conglomerates could deliver more of their profits to the nation as a whole, although exported oil could not be taxed without a constitutional amendment. In short, our system is as corrupt as anything found in Africa. As detailed in the attachment, our best way to encourage an end to corruption in Africa is to reduce it in this country. Start with campaign finance reform and the creation of an asset value tax, which I've talked about before, but I will talk about it again. It's in an attachment, but to refresh our memories, an AVAT removes the collection of taxes on capital gains, dividends, interest, and rent, with the last being solely collected by state and local governments. The inheritance tax would also be repealed. An AVAT would be marked to market at initial public offer, option exercise, and the first sale after inheritance, gift, or donation. Families retain assets as long as they use them, but those who buy them would pay the tax to the SEC. So if they say, we're done with the business, that's great. Then they're treated like any other investor when they sell. As is the case currently, the tax would be zero rated for sales to qualified employee ownership plans. Sales to cooperatives would also carry this benefit. The revolution will occur, but as a tax benefit rather than through confiscation. Africa could learn this lesson too, even forming links to American cooperatives all along the supply chain. This is a much better option than continuing with our current system of trade agreements and tariffs. Which is the point of this hearing, to see how it's going and what's better. This is better. So I thank you very much. As usual, this will be a YouTube video as well, and I will link to that in the submission. Thank you very much.